What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic and excellent spirits as we are here live, directed in full effect. Of course, welcome to today, April 23rd, the year of our Lord 2025, the latest live stream coming at you here on YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by. I had a couple people on board, and all I got to say is welcome. If this is your first time, I appreciate you stopping by. If not, if this has been your second, third, fourth, I don't even know. What has it been? 8 or 9 times I've done this live stream? Well, welcome back. So here we are as we get into it. Wait, why is that the 16th? I thought I updated that, and I'm sure I thought I did. Let's do this on the fly, people. My error there with the – there we go. Let's try that again. There you go, April 23rd, because that's what we're talking about here. We're not going back to April 16th. We can't look behind. We can only stay in the present, stay in the moment, and here we are. So with all that being said, I got a lot cooking here over the course of the next hour, hour plus. Obviously, we'll get into all the sports. The playoffs are underway in both the fall and winter sports, NBA and NHL. The Mets going for a sweep. I know, Jonathan, if you're not in the room just yet, I'm sure you're going to be ecstatic to see whether or not the Mets could broom the Phillies back down the I-95 corridor to Philadelphia. Well, really, they're going to Chicago after this because they're playing the Cubs over the weekend. But to think Mets could go a full homestand sweep as they swept the Cardinals over the weekend and are now just 9 innings or maybe plus away from another sweep and a 7-game homestand that would be 7-0. And the Mets have only lost 1 game at home this year, albeit to the Marlins. And they got shut out in that game, 5-0. That was 2 Wednesdays ago. I believe it was 2 weeks ago today. So we'll touch on the Mets. And also at the very end, I need your input. It is important because I have a few things that are on the stove and they're not really cooking just yet. It's me just like turning on the burners and maybe I've thrown some water in one pot and maybe I have some olive oil in another and they're just starting to get heated. So before I throw the ingredients in there, which proverbially is the ingredients that I'm going to share with you guys and gals, and then I want to get your feedback. Maybe as we get that stove cooking, you may look at that and be like, hey, I like that idea. Or maybe you're smelling the oil like, no, take that off the burner, J-Reels. We don't want you to go in that direction. So, yes, after I get through the sports, I will touch on a few things that I have brewing that I want to share with you guys and gals because it's important for me to take the temperature of the followers, of the people who've watched and subscribed and all that. So that's coming at you later on. But I have to start off with what is happening. I see a couple of comments in there, which I'll get to in a second. But I have to start off with a couple of housekeeping notes. First and foremost, those who are watching on the replay, please leave a comment. You can do so. And I will be able to follow up with you long after this live stream is in the book. So like I mentioned, whatever it is that I say here throughout the course of this hour, hour plus, something that you agree with, something you disagree with, something you want to even add as a suggestion, please don't be shy. Do so. More than open, ready, willing, able to hear what it is that you have to say or read what it is that you typed. So go ahead and do that as I will certainly follow up with you at that point. And for those who are on live, yes, share your thoughts in the chat room. I'll get to those couple of comments in a minute, but it is imperative to tell me what's on your mind. Share that feedback. If you don't like what I'm saying, not that I'm saying anything that's crazy, but if I come out and say something like, oh, well, the Lakers are now going to go to Minneapolis and they're going to lose the 2 games to the Timberwolves before coming back and getting game 5 in their building where they're going to lose. So you're probably going to say, Jay Reels, what have you been smoking? Please feel free to say whatever it is on your mind. Obviously, we're going to be respectful here. That's the good thing about these live streams. Everybody has been mindful, respectful towards one another, towards yours truly, etc. And we, of course, we want to keep it that way. We could get into some spirited debates if so be it, or a back and forth. That's perfectly fine. It's healthy. It's certainly welcome. But as long as it doesn't get personal, as long as it doesn't get over the line or crazy or anything like that, of course, we want this to be a safe and respectable space for everybody here. So that's also important as well. Now, one last housekeeping note that I want to get to before I move it along, and it happens to tie into what I'm going to talk about in the back end of this live stream. But if you have not watched, I released it yesterday. the Knicks vlog. Remember a couple weeks ago, I went to Citi Field opening day and I took the temperature of the Met fan as far as their expectations for 2025. Well, yep, you see it right there in the graphic. I went to MSG outside the Garden there on Saturday before game one of their series against the Pistons, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But for the Knicks fan, what were they thinking? What were they feeling? Were they super optimistic? Were they right in the middle somewhere where they did not feel as if, all right, we could probably get past this round, but are we going to get past the Celtics if we do play them in the next round? Or were they just gloom and doom? Like, we're here. Yeah, we better beat the Pistons, but we're not going to go past that. Well, you'll get to check it out on the latest vlog on the channel. All you got to do is just go there. I'm sure it's in one of the top 2 or 3 windows or tabs. And I have everything neat as far as my vlogs and video podcast episodes of the past. You can check Monday's podcast if you haven't listened to it. Go back there. So, yes, Knicks fans or NBA fans or just sports fans, check it out. I appreciate it. Like it. Send me a comment if you wish. Go back and forth. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, let alone the podcast too, because I'm sure I may have podcast listeners who are jumping in on this live stream. So go ahead, check it out, and let me know what you think about that as far as the vlog is concerned. All right, now let's get to it. Before I even get into what is going on here in the world of sports, I want to start off with the NBA because Stanley Cup, I understand a lot of people may not be into it and people may even tune me out when it comes to that, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that because the NHL is just getting warmed up. You had a couple of series that have 2 games under their belt. You just had a game 1 last night between the Panthers and Lightning, which to a big surprise, the Panthers just outlasted and overpowered the Lightning, and I'm sure it helped to have Magic Tkachuk back, who had not played since February 20th. And for the Panthers, who, as we all know, are the defending Stanley Cup champs, to have their key cog in the wheel, pretty much the heart and soul and blood and guts of their team to be back in the mix, I'm sure that was a boost unlike any other to a team that actually floundered over the last few weeks of the season. So they have a 1-0 series lead there. But before I even get to that, and let me get to the comments too, and let me get this one graphic out. Yes, we'll talk about the NBA playoff picture right now, but let's see what we got in the comments. My man Jonathan's in the house, but all right. Thank you, Val. Warrior fan that he is, as I play the Rockets tonight. And my guy Jonathan, yes, thank you so much as well. I'm glad you checked it out and watched. And yes, I'm going to talk about the Mets after I get through the NBA and NHL because they are the big story in baseball right now. We could go through the standings. We could go through who's hot and who's not. But the Mets, I get it. It's a personal, from a standpoint of me being a big Met fan, and it's more personal as opposed to the big scope of what Major League Baseball has. And that's fine. We could talk about anything that's happening in baseball. You know that. But because of what they've been able to do here over the past week and could close out the Phillies before they go down to the nation's capital in a wraparound 4-game series, which will start Friday and Monday. So for the Mets, we'll touch on that later, Jonathan. I'm sure I'll get your views on that. But I want to start off with the basketball because the NBA playoff picture last night, you had the Lakers win. No surprise there after that embarrassing performance there on Saturday night where the T-Wolves won by 22. And again, this is water, people, not vodka or gin or any other clear spirit that's out there. But for the Lakers, they evened their series last night. Bucks and Pacers, scenario where the Pacers are now up 2-0 in the series. And even though Damian Lillard came back and Lillard did not really play well, Giannis has been just an absolute monster. Another, 30-point, I think he had 18 rebounds. I think it was 35, 18, and 7. Just astronomical video game type numbers, but it was in another loss. And you saw Lillard and Halliburton, who were joined with one another in game 1, where Lillard was in street clothes. And then yesterday on the court, they went at it back and forth to where Halliburton in the postgame said that, I don't like them, they don't like us. Now, I'll pump the brakes on this being a rivalry. Maybe it's a budding rivalry, considering that these teams now have played in back-to-back postseasons and there is a disdain for one another. But I am not about to call this the next big rivalry in the NBA. I mean, think about it. It's Indiana-Milwaukee. Not to say that it has to be all about big markets. It has to be Yankees-Red Sox or even Celtics-Lakers in the NBA or Boston and Montreal for hockey, 2 original 6 teams, Ohio State, Michigan, North Carolina, Duke. No, this is in its infancy. I can't even say it's a budding rivalry. Now, if the Bucks get back in the series to where it goes back to Indiana game 5, and maybe there's a little bit of fireworks, highly contested, down to the wire to where it could be thrilling, then we can talk about it. But right now, for this to be called a rivalry at this point, way too early to even mention it. And forget about even talking about those aforementioned big-time rivalries in sports. But that will be a series if the Bucks get back into it and not win a game 3 to where they at least get back in the series. They got to win the next 2 in order for me to believe or even think that the Bucks have the shot to win the series. As it is, I don't think they're going to win the series. I thought, what was it? I can't even tell you what my prediction was. I think I did pick the Pacers to win because of no Lillard. I may have said 6 and thought this series could go 7, but right now the Pacers are in control as the series will shift to Milwaukee there. I believe, Friday night will be game 3 before they reconvene there on Sunday. And I'll look through the schedule in a second. As a matter of fact, let me pull that up right now. What the hell, while we're at it. The Bucks and Pacers will play, like I mentioned, Friday, which will be game 3. And then, of course, they'll play game 4 on on Sunday. So what else in the NBA last night? What else did you have there? Oh, Memphis and Oklahoma City. No match for the Grizzlies. They got buried by 50 on Sunday, which I get it. You can look at the Grizzlies with a quick turnaround playing on Friday night and then had a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. All right, you lose by 25-30. Embarrassing, but by 50? Seriously? That was a little bit too much. And then last night they lose, 118-99. So the Oklahoma City Thunder looks like they're not even going to break out a sweat in this series. Does Memphis even get a game as this series moves along? Maybe they get a game. I think it's going to be a sweep, and if anything, at the least, it's going to be 5 games. But I think OKC is going to take care of business in Memphis, and that series will be kaput. And what else do we have here? Other than that, the Knicks, let's talk about them for a second, because I think the only series that you're going to have of note here, all right, we can talk about Lakers and T-Wolves, but I think the Lakers will get a game in Minnesota or Minneapolis, and that could probably go 6 games. But I don't see that being highly competitive when it's all said and done, unless Anthony Edwards is going to pull out a couple of 40-point performances out of his rear end. But that we'll have to wait and see. And as far as the other 2 series that I think are going to be interesting, the Nuggets and Clippers and the Knicks and Pistons. I guess I'll start with the local flair, Knicks and Pistons. I thought the Knicks would win in 6, and I'm a little bit worried about them. Say, and forget about what you see in the back pages. And I understand that a lot of people are thinking that, Coach Tom Thibodeau is just wearing his players to the bone. They're playing more than 40 minutes. They don't have a bench. These guys are just going to wear out here, maybe even prior to the end of the series, if they do advance. And if they don't advance, it's because they've been playing excessive minutes. Well, what do you want? What do you expect from your big-time players? This is not the time to be thinking about load management or preserving your players. Now, yes, if there's a blowout to where whether the Knicks blow out the Pistons or the Pistons blow out the Knicks where you want to give them 4th quarter rest and they have no shot to win the game, all right, fine. But this is all hands on deck. You got here for a reason. And if you're the Knicks right now, you have to win this series. Even if you go to a game 7 and you win in 20 overtimes. Because if they lose this series, it's quite possible that the head coach could lose his job, number 1. And number 2, this would be a regression for a franchise that went to the postseason last year, got to the second round, to a game 7 against Indiana. All right, you ran out of gas because you had OG Anunoby hurt. You didn't have Julius Randle, of course. He was hurt since January. And then Jalen Brunson, I believe, he break his thumb there in the first half of that game and did not play in the second half. So therefore, you literally were running on fumes until the tank was empty. So for this year and for everything that they've done in the regular season, albeit not beating the top-tier teams in the sport, whether it was 0-4 against Boston, 0-4 against Cleveland, 0-2 against OKC, and mind you, they were 1-3 against Detroit. So this may not be a surprise to the NBA fan and maybe to the Knicks fan, the true Knicks fan. I'm sure they're aware that, hey, we were 1-3 against this team, and now here they are where they actually could be down 0-2 in the series. And two of the reasons, and I even mentioned this yesterday on the channel on my little YouTube short, two reasons why I'm really concerned and even worried about this Knicks team in this series. Number one is the Pistons aren't afraid of them. The Pistons, as I detailed, they were 3-1 against them and actually outplayed them in the first two games of the series, albeit about a 7 or 8 minute stretch from the start of the fourth quarter in game one where the Knicks went on that 21-0 run to win the game. But you take that away, and I understand you can't, but if you take that away, the Pistons are up 2-0 in the series. So now that they're going to go back home, and not to say that the Piston home court isn't similar to the Palace out in Auburn Hills back in the day of Isaiah Thomas or even in the day of Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, etc. But now they're going to go back home. They have gas in their tank. The fans are going to be pumped up. The fans are going to be afraid of the Knicks. And you have a scenario where even if the Pistons win one game, and I think the Knicks will win one of the next two, but now this is going to be a best of three coming back to the Garden. And dare I even think that if the Pistons take these next two games and the Knicks are going to be on the griddle for a game 5 in their building where they know that they're going to have to win that game, they cannot go out in 5. And I understand that's a bit of a stretch. But one more time, point number one, the Pistons aren't afraid of the Knicks. They are not. And number two, and this is a big, big number two. Can the real Karl-Anthony Towns show up in the series? And people can talk about Jalen Brunson. He's hogging the ball. He's taking 27 shots. Well, obviously, he's the guy that's going to be the big shot maker, the big shot taker when it comes down to the final minutes of the game. And I understand Karl-Anthony Towns may not be that guy. Understood, 100%. But can you give me more than 11 points and 5 rebounds there in game 2? And here's the guy that averaged 24 points a game, won 11 boards, was an all-star this year. And I talked about this on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, jreels.com, of course, here on YouTube at jreels. I talked about back in February. Think about this. When the Celtics played the Knicks at the Garden, February 8th, the day before the Super Bowl, what did Karl-Anthony Towns put up as far as numbers that night? I believe his numbers were 9 points and 9 rebounds. And because it was a regular season game, and because it was under the radar on the eve of the Super Bowl, and everybody's thinking of Chiefs and Eagles, that a somewhat meaningful game, more for the Knicks fan than for the NBA fan, somewhat meaningful game in February where Karl-Anthony Towns was invisible. He was a no-show. And I mentioned it then, and I'll have to go back to that podcast there. It would be now February 10th, bringing up how Karl-Anthony Towns, we get it that he could be Claude Rains, the Invisible Man. You got to go way back to the 30s, where if he's not going to show in January, February, March, you don't like it, but you'll excuse it. But when the lights are bright and when the stage is bigger, and there's no bigger stage in Madison Square Garden, and when he's going to have to stand and deliver his sidekick there with Brunson being Batman or him being the one where Karl-Anthony Towns the 1A, he was brought to New York as a guy, as a big piece to this puzzle to get themselves to a conference final and, dare I even say, an NBA final. And how I talked about with Karl-Anthony Towns that if he's going to have games like he had on Monday night where he is not going to show up or he is not going to produce, that trade is going to loom even bigger in the eyes of the Knicks fan to the executives there at the Garden, whether your name is Leon Rose, Worldwide West, etc., to where you're going to say, wait a minute, this guy has not been as advertised throughout the regular season, being an all-star, 24 points, all the numbers that I had mentioned. And then now all of a sudden he's going to wait in the biggest games of the year here in April and maybe May, if it does happen to transition to the next month, that now all of a sudden he's nowhere to be found. And that's one thing. I understand he's from the other side of the river, about an hour outside of New York, where he's a Jersey kid. So it's not as if he's impervious to what it's like to play under the bright lights. And I'm sure he's watched the Knicks from afar, or I'm sure he knows what the media is going to cast upon their athletes when they do not deliver in big moments. So I don't think he is unaware of the landscape here when it comes to the media. But he has to, starting tomorrow night in the game 3, he's going to have to put up a big-time effort. And even if it isn't a losing effort, which would be, I'm not going to say debilitating or crippling, but it's certainly going to be ominous because who knows what will happen in Game 4 if the Knicks do happen to lose Game 3 in Detroit. But if he goes up to the Motor City and he puts forth a 27-12 game, win or lose, at least people will think, all right, maybe now it can translate to a Game 4 where we're going to need him either to draw even in the series or maybe even take a 3-1 series lead. So if you're a Knicks fan, and I understand it's still early in the series, but to know that the Pistons aren't afraid of the Knicks, A, and B, Karl-Anthony Towns, come on, let's go. Let's get cracking. Because from here on out, the microscope is going to be under him. And if he is not going to put up big numbers, or if he's going to be very inconsistent, well, let's say they win a Game 3 tomorrow night, and he puts up a double-double. And then Game 4, what happens? All right, he gives you 17 and 9. That's not going to cut it. He's going to have to put up all-star-like numbers in order for this Knicks team to get to the next round. Because anything less than that, anything short of that, not only will the fan base kill him, but he's going to have to sit on that for a whole rest of the spring and summer if they do not get out of the series alive, and therefore have to question whether or not he is going to be a big part to this puzzle after this year moving forward. And that's not to say they're going to unload him or trade him or anything like that, but you have to really consider and question whether or not he's going to be made and built to play in this city. Because if he shrinks in big spots and if he does not stand and deliver, you may have to change it up. I know that's premature to say. I know that it's certainly, like I mentioned, we're just 2 games into the series, but if he does not cut the mustard here and is not going to put up not even just a big-time performance, but a performance that's worthy enough for him to say, all right, he was a key contributor to this particular game or this series, etc., then you have to maybe reshuffle the deck. And again, I'm putting this down as receipts now because if by any chance they do not get out of the series alive, or let's say they do get out of the series alive, but he's not putting up numbers that you would think are going to bode well for the next round. Because I got news for you. If this round you think is going to be hard and they get out alive, what do you think that next round is going to be if they face the Celtics? When he's going to go up against the likes of Al Horford, when he's going to go up against the likes of Kristaps Porzingis, when he's going to go up against the likes of, a little smaller than him, but Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That is a whole different animal that he's going to have to tackle at that point. So just putting that out there as we move it along here. So the Knicks got that going for them. And then the other series that is of note is the Clippers and Nuggets. And you can even argue the Clippers could be up 2-0 going back home, where the Nuggets were able to get Game 1 thanks to Russell Westbrook of all people. But if Kawhi Leonard is going to put forth numbers like he did the other night, 39 points, and that knee is sound, and you still have to hold your breath with Kawhi Leonard. I'm sorry, because he could put up that type of performance there on Monday night. And then next thing you know, in a Game 4, or excuse me, in a Game 3, he re-aggravated that knee, or he's grabbing it, or he's massaging it a little bit too much there on the sideline as he's taking a blow. So just like I can't trust James Harden to be a guy when the money's on the line to take his team to the next game or the next round, I have to say the same for Kawhi, because he is literally one step away from being back on the sidelines in street clothes. And I hope that's not the case. We want to see a healthy Kawhi Leonard. We know what he's capable of doing, even with the injuries, even with all the rehab, and even maybe, and I won't even say he's not the same player, because what you saw there the other night was like the Kawhi Leonard of old. Whether it was in San Antonio or the 1 year in Toronto, he's a guy that when the money is on the line, what happens? He produces. He delivers. And if that's going to be the case, the Nuggets are going to be in for it. Excuse me. And with Nikola Jokic, of course, we understand that he can't do everything, despite the fact that he is pretty much the center, the point guard, the heart and soul, the blood and guts, the face of the franchise, etc. But with Jamal Murray being compromised, and with them not having a deep bench, and Russell Westbrook is only going to give you so much, I think that they're going to be in a world of trouble here, especially if they lose a game 3, which will be set for, I believe it's tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken? Should be tonight. Game 3 is, no, it's tomorrow night because you got Golden State, Houston, and then you have, tomorrow night, Denver, LA, Oklahoma, Memphis, and then Knicks and Pistons will tip off the first of the triple-header there tomorrow. So that's what you have. NBA is going to be fascinating. I think the Clippers, they are going to be a tough out here, especially if those guys are healthy and if Harden is able to back up what he's been able to do here so far in the series, and especially in key spots and key moments of games. So you have to keep that in mind too, because he's one guy that you cannot trust. And I don't care if he's going to go in the Hall of Fame in roller skates or on roller skates. He's a guy that I've seen time after time after time. It doesn't matter the uniform. It doesn't matter if he wore it in Oklahoma City. It doesn't matter if he wore it in Houston. It doesn't matter even if he is wearing it now in LA, date back to last year, or even in Philadelphia. So I've seen enough. I've seen that movie many times before. I'll have to believe it when I see it, when it's a pivotal game 5 or even a game 7 where he puts up a 15 for 23, 43-point, 11 assist, 9 rebound performance and advances to the next round, where I can say, oh, and even then, I'll be sold for one game and one series, but I'll have to see it again. That's just how I feel when it comes to James Harden. And then you have Miami, Cleveland. Do I really need to get into that series? I think Cleveland's going to dispose of them in 5. I'll give the Heat a game without a doubt. And Oklahoma City, Memphis. Houston, Golden State, to me, that's an interesting series because I think Houston will rebound, but they need to win tonight because they cannot go back to the Bay Area down 0-2 to the Warriors, because then they'll smell blood in the water and they'll pounce on, and maybe the Rockets will steal a game in San Francisco, but they need – you talk about a must-win for a young team that has good young players and a good young core, but does not know their way around the postseason. Yes, Fred VanVleet won a championship. Yes, Dylan Brooks has played in some playoff games, but the key figures on that team, whether their name is Amen Thompson, whether their name is Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, those are the 3 guys that are going to be the heart and soul of this team as the years move along. But they are going to have to really show up tonight and put forth an effort to get the series even back to the West Coast in order for them, in my eyes, to win that series. So we'll see how that shakes down tonight in H-Town. So that's what happened with the NBA. I see a comment in the house. Let me see. What do we have? Now, are Warriors going to win today, do you think? I'm going to say no, only because now the game is close. If I say no, I think the Rockets will win in not a blowout, but they'll have a big enough lead to where maybe the older guys on the team don't expend a lot of energy. So if the Rockets come out of the gate fast and furious, and it gets to a point to where they've had a double-digit lead throughout the course of the game. So if the Warriors cut it to, let's say, 9 in the fourth quarter, but then the Rockets answer, and then they answer again, I think they'll take the pedal off the metal. They'll conserve energy. They'll wait till Friday night when they'll have a game 3 in the Bay Area and regroup and get back to the West Coast to where they'll have the home court. They'll have the next 2 games in their building, and that's that. If it's a close game, I'd be afraid if I'm the Rockets. And when I mean by close, that it's within 5 in the fourth quarter, because do I trust the Rockets to extend their lead or to bury the Warriors at that point? If they're up by 10, 12, and it's the fourth quarter, and even though the Warriors chip away, and maybe, like I said, they cut it to 8 or 9, where it's like, oh, here they are. They're on their run now. But I don't think the Rockets will panic. I think it'll be a scenario where they'll find a way to win that game. And, right, what can I base that on? Maybe not much, but because they have the home court and maybe with Ime Udoka on the sidelines, it's a situation where he'll call timeouts when needed. He'll corral his players and say, hey, this is no time to panic. This is no time to now all of a sudden play hot potato with the basketball. That is a veteran team. They know how to win. They know how to play. We got to match that. And maybe they will. But I think the Rockets will win tonight, not necessarily in a blowout, but maybe in one of those 112, 101 type of games. But if it is close, fourth quarter, like I said, within 5, even 6 for that matter, I would say look out. I could see the Warriors taking advantage and maybe winning that game. But no, I mean, by me saying the Rockets are going to win doesn't mean that the Warriors aren't going to win at all. I have a shot. Absolutely not, Val. But I feel that the Rockets will win just to make it interesting as the series will shift to San Francisco come the weekend. All right, now let me get to the Stanley Cup. This is real quick, people. I understand hockey's not everybody's wheelhouse. Now, you've had some interesting games. You had some overtime games. To me, the big storylines in the Stanley Cup playoffs are threefold. If you didn't listen to the podcast there last week, I talked about how the top seeds in each conference, that was first and foremost. Now, the Jets have taken care of business. I know they've been close games. You got to give it up for what the Jets have done and give it up for Kyle Connor. He's been a contributing and huge factor here in these series with big goals, the game winner there in game 1. And then, of course, there, I believe that, last night. So now that they have it was 2 nights ago, excuse me, because now I got my series all mixed up as I pull up my schedule here. Kyle Connor with the game winner, and they're going to need him. They're going to need Connor Hellebuck, who certainly has a lot to answer to after that postseason last year, which was just god-awful against the Avalanche. And for Connor to contribute in the way that he has here over the course of these first 2 games certainly is going to bode well as the series will now go to St. Louis. And for Winnipeg, because they were the President's Trophy winner and a team that I think should get to a cup, and not only just based on the record and the President's Trophy, but the NBA and NHL are similar this year, as I've detailed in past live streams, and I'll just rehash it one more time. You've had the Winnipeg Jets and the Washington Capitals, 2 teams that I'm sure when you ask all the experts, nobody had in their right frame of mind thinking that they would be 1 seeds in their conference. So that means that, or that meant they had a big regular season, an enormous regular season, an overachieving one to the point where now there's pressure. They just can't get to a conference final, and if they lose in the 8th overtime in a game 7, that, we had a good year. No. You had a big year for a reason, and you got to back that up, but at least getting to a Stanley Cup final. And anything short of that, now anything can happen in a Stanley Cup final, but you got to back that up. I mean, think about this. Oklahoma City last year was a 1 seed, youngest team in the league, and what happens? They got knocked out in the conference semifinals. All right, you give them a pass because that's a young team. They don't know their way around the postseason. So, therefore, you look at it like, okay, we'll give them a pass here. Now, they lost in 6. Dallas, we understand, more veteran-laden team, more firepower. Obviously, Luka was there at the time with Kyrie. So, all right, no problem. But this year, with Oklahoma City, they won 68 games. How many teams in the history of the National Basketball Association has won 68 games in a regular season? Think about this. The 73 Knicks won 68 games. And what happened? They lost to the Knicks en route to them winning an NBA championship. Now, maybe the Celtics get a pass because they won a championship. The last time they won a championship was in 69, because they hadn't won a championship since then. And maybe that was a precursor because they did win a championship in 74. But I'm sure even back then, no sports talk radio, etc., and even with John Havlicek with a bad shoulder, I'm sure they got destroyed, considering they won 68 games. And then, remember, they lost a game 7 in their building to the Knicks, where the Celtics never lost a game 7. So think about that. But teams that win that have that type of record, I mean, you're talking about the 71-72 Sixers that were 69-13. That won 33 games in a row. You're talking about another team that has been in that stratosphere, the 66-67 Sixers that won a championship. You're talking about Bulls teams. You're talking about past Celtic teams. The 08 Celtics have won 66 games. I mean, this is a team that has to get to a final. Anything short of that, and again, like I mentioned with the Cavaliers, you can lose in 20 overtimes in a game 7 to the Lakers, Clippers, etc. No excuse. You got to get to a final. Back up what you did in the regular season and the postseason. So to me, I'm not going to give the Capitals a pass. I'm not, now barring major injuries, of course, but I'm not going to give them any particular pass, Jets, Capitals in particular. Then I talked about the Panthers, whether or not they're going to have another cup run. Remember, they went to back-to-back Stanley Cups over the last 2 years. Lost the first in Vegas. Last year, of course, winning against Edmonton. But that was a big storyline to me, to see whether or not that they can rebound. And the other storyline on the Maple Leafs, because their drought, they have not gotten past the second round. 2 years ago, they did so, but throughout the last 20-some-odd years, they've been one and done. And this team, with a big overtime win last night, Max told me getting the OT goal, which now they'll go to Ottawa. And that was huge because you would have to think, if they would have lost that game, Ottawa would have gone back home, had the home ice. Toronto, their psyche is a little bit fragile over the years. Maybe there's a little doubt creeping in their head. And a series that probably could have gone 5 games may now go 6 or even 7. That could still be the case. But right now, I would think this could be a 5-game series where Ottawa has not made it into the playoffs in forever. But to me, that's what I looked at there as far as what is happening in the Stanley Cup playoffs to date. Yes, we can talk about the other series. Carolina's going to beat the Devils. They beat them 3-1 there last night. The Devils are a walking wounded team. They don't have a lot of their key players, so I don't expect much from New Jersey here on out. Minnesota with a big win in Vegas last night. Actually dominated, had a 4-0 lead early in the second period and ended up winning 5-2. So now that looks like it's going to be a series between the Wild and Golden Knights. Crazy game with Edmonton and the Kings the other night where the Kings had a 2-goal lead with 2.5 minutes to go. And then what happened? Edmonton scores 2 goals within a 2-minute span. But remember, you still had a half a minute to go. And in the final half minute, the Kings get the go-ahead and winning goal by Philip Deneau, and they win 6-5. So who knows where that series is going to go, and those two teams know each other, as this is the 4th year in a row that these teams are playing in the first round. And that's why they have to switch up the playoff format, because for 2 teams to play each other now for the 4th straight year, you need to have it 1 through 8. It can't be a situation where the 1 seed is going to play the second wild card and the 2 seeds is going to play the first wild card. And then the 3 through 6, they're going to play in the divisions where they're going to play one another as the 2-3 seeds. No, to me, they got to switch that up. They got to go back to the old format because I'm tired of Edmonton, LA. In years past, of Tampa and Florida, we've seen a million times. Tampa, Toronto, we've seen a million times. So I wish they could switch that up. I don't know if they're going to do so, but that will have to wait and see. And then we talked about the Capitals game 1. They play game 2 tonight with Ovechkin getting the overtime goal. As let's see how the Ovechkin carpet ride goes in this postseason, considering he has the all-time goal-scoring record. And as I talked about here on the live stream, how for him to not only get the record, and he's at 897, but imagine a run to the Cup final and then winning it, he would have to go off into the sunset. And I think he has 1 more year left on his deal, but maybe he wants to get to 900 goals or maybe extend the goal-scoring record deeper so it could be uncatchable, so to speak, or unreachable. But obviously that could be a storyline as you get deeper to the playoffs. That's just me and my early thoughts. And this was going back to the regular season that I brought this up. So that's what you have there with the NHL. Nothing else to really get into or unpack. Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, Dallas, Colorado. That looks like it's going to be a series as Dallas. And that was a huge win for them because despite the fact that the Stars last year in the opening round in Vegas, they lost the first 2 games in their building before they came back and won. But Colorado looks like they could be a team on a mission. And last night, at least for one night, the Stars were able to prevail. They won in overtime. And now they'll have a game 3 in Colorado tonight, where it's the middle game. Tonight is Washington hosting Montreal, Dallas at Colorado, and then Edmonton, LA will play a game 2 there. That game's on CBS, where the first 2 games are on ESPN. But that's what I have at the NHL, as we'll look forward to that here, and I'll talk about it more on the podcast tomorrow, as you know. So now, let's turn our attention. Jonathan, I don't know if you're still in the room, but let me pull this up here real quick. In about it's 12:40, in a half hour, Citi Field, Major League Baseball, the Mets. Let me put up the graphic here. There you go. As I talked about at the top, Mets, who lost 2 out of 3 in the back 2 in Minnesota last week, and came into this homestand. They swept the Cardinals, and they won the first 2 games of the series against the Philadelphia Phillies, where they're going to go for the sweep today. Now, the pitching matchup does not favor the Mets today because they're going to have Zach Wheeler, the former Met, go up against David Peterson, who Peterson has been – he's been okay. No, he's been – I'll give him better than okay. He's been good. Now, a lot of walks and is a guy that has struck out a lot more batters. But Zach Wheeler, this is why you have an ace. This is why you have a stopper. This is why you have a guy that can end a losing streak, or in this particular case, end a potential sweep. And Zach Wheeler, as Met fans know very well, he's a guy that can certainly throw a bunch of zeros at you. Now, considering this year he is pedestrian, now he's 2-1. His ERA is almost 4, almost 3 3/4 runs per game. But I think if the Mets are going to sweep this series, they got to get on Wheeler early, as you know. You can't let the starter get in the groove. You're going to have to get at him early. And with the Met offense, especially Francisco Lindor, who's hit a bunch of home runs here, a recent stretch, and Pete Alonso continues his march there with his RBIs. He's at 23 right now. And for him to just be more than what the Met fan could expect, and I'm sure Scott Boras right now has dollar signs in his eyes because remember, Pete Alonso could opt out after this year, but here we are. We're only on April 23rd, people. So I get it. It's way, way, way too premature to even think that if it's Scott Boras because you still have another 140 games to go. Now what? 23, 149 games to go? Or whatever the number is. 39. This Met team's looking good. Now, it's still way too early. And they have not played, other than the Phillies here recently, and I get it, you could go maybe back to the Toronto series opening day when they came into the series at 5-2. But they have not played a lot of the big teams other than the Phillies here. And maybe this is a bit of a hangover for the Phillies. They come back into a building where their season ended last year, and they're scuffling at the moment. Now, who knows? Watch Zach Wheeler put up a 7-inning, 1-run, 3-hit, 12-strikeout performance. But you got to like what you see with the Mets here. And do I think they'll sweep today? I think it's going to be a little bit challenging, and it'll be interesting because although they put the finishing touch on the Cardinals, can they do the same here against the Phillies? I think this will be a little bit tougher. They'll have a day off tomorrow before going to Washington to start their series. But how I look at it is the Mets, they have been far more than what I could ever imagine here to have this type of start, to go 17-7, and for them to play the way they have. And yes, they've beaten up on bad opponents. We know the Marlins twice. They killed the Cardinals, as you saw there over the weekend. And yes, they did lose 2 out of 3 in Minnesota, who have not played well here at the start of their year. And they played a lot of teams in the American League, as you know. They even lost 2 out of 3 to Houston in the opening series of the year, but they did go out to Sacramento and beat the Athletics. So it's been a great start. And their offense has played well, as you know. Lindor has this recent torrid stretch with all these home runs. Pete Alonso, we know. I know Soto hasn't really got on track, but Soto will get on track. I'm not worried about him. And Vientos, who hit a home run the other day, and hopefully he gets his average up there well above the Mendoza line. And we're still waiting on Francisco Alvarez to come back, which I'm sure he's still a couple of weeks away. And listen, I'm not trying to make Alvarez out to be Gary Carter, but I think with him in the lineup, it lengthens the batting order, and he's a guy that has a powerful stick. 25 home runs 2 years ago. I know he regressed a little bit last year, but you got to like what you see from his offense. And even Luis Torres has given you a contribution. Very good. Now, the other shoe to drop will be the pitching. And listen, I can't say anything more about the pitching than what's been displayed. Griffin Canning, although gave up 7 hits, but he gave you a good performance there yesterday. And we know what Kodai Senga has done to this point. Kodai Senga has been phenomenal. Hopefully he can stay healthy and provide that anchor-like performer there at the top of the rotation. And we're still waiting on Sean Manaea and even Paul Blackburn to a lesser degree. Now, I know he's for down the road, but the rotation has been phenomenal. There isn't anything else that I could say other than they have done the job. And the offense has done enough and has put up numbers, put up runs when need be, So can this continue? Will they win today? Listen, I hope they do. I don't know if they will, because I think the Phillies are going to show some pride and go out there, and Wheeler, I'm sure he's going to want to stick it to his former team to know that we're not going to go out like that and try to avoid getting swept out of Flushing. But other than that, with the baseball, what else can I give you? Any other news and notes as I pull this up? All right, Giancarlo Stanton for batting practice. All right, good for him. But for the remainder of the Major League Baseball, I mean, the Mets are hot. I talked about this last week, and I know this is obviously more like a clickbait item, which I'm not into clickbait people, but I'm actually surprised by the way baseball is shaped up here, minus the Rockies. I mean, they're just beyond dreadful. But you have a lot of teams that are hovering 500, a bit over, a bit under. Yes, we know the Rockies are bad. Yes, we know the Pirates are going to have a long year. Now the Rays are starting to fall apart, so they may be looking at a long year. Yes, we know the White Sox are bad, Twins. But you do have some teams that have underachieved at the start, whether you're the Royals, whether they're 10-14. Even the Marlins, they're 11-10, and they're hanging in there. And they're going for a sweep in their own right as they play the Reds. And the Reds, I thought maybe they would go to Miami and try to get closer to the division with the Cubs and the Brewers, but they've taken a bit of a hit here. And we know the NL West is stacked. So you have a lot of teams that have played pretty well and have, I won't say that they've held their water, maybe like the Marlins and teams like that. But it's good. It's good to see that, because although the separation is coming, where the Marlins will come back to the pack, where other teams, maybe the Reds, even with Terry Francona as your manager, or if the Royals, after last year making it to the postseason, into the division series, well, they'll separate themselves, or even the Blue Jays for that matter. Understood. But you got to like what you see, in this early part of the baseball season, how teams have hung in there, and tomorrow will actually be the 4-week point. It'll be 4 weeks from tomorrow when the baseball season began. So let's see. I'm going to be on top of it. Baseball is my love, but it's a marathon, as we all know. It's a long season, so we'll certainly keep our eyes on that. And before I get to the big questions that I have for you guys and gals, let me see. I got a comment here. Giants lost yesterday. Oh, that's the team you follow? Yes, I know you love the Warriors. And let me think. Val, you're a Niner fan? I would assume so. Good, tell me team. I know your hockey team's San Jose. So I would think that your team is also the Niners for football. As let's see if he pulls that up there and puts that in the comments. But yeah, we'll see what's going to happen there. And yeah, thoughts on the NFL draft? I know it's tomorrow, and I get it. We're on the eve of it. It is not an exciting draft, and I understand it is generated a lot by the quarterbacks that are coming out, and you don't have big-time quarterbacks coming out. This isn't a draft where you're going to have Josh Allen and, for the time, Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield, etc. But we know Cam Ward's going to go 1, or so we think, with Tennessee at the first overall pick. And then who knows with Shedeur Sanders. I know that that's going to be the wild card here, whether or not he's going to get drafted in the top 10. Does he even fall out of the top 10? Does he go to 21, where the Steelers will need to select a quarterback? And listen, I think he's going to go probably at 9 with New Orleans, because they're going to need a signal caller, considering that the current quarterback, Derek Carr, he may be out for the whole year with a shoulder injury. So I would think Shedeur is going to go there, unless they like Jackson Dart, and that would be a reach, because a lot of people think Jackson Dart early second round or mid-second round pick, and to think the Saints could draft him at 9, and I get it. He went to Ole Miss, not too far from Louisiana, part of that region there, SEC, but I'd be a bit surprised if they do take Dart there at number 9 overall. But yeah, we know that the Abdul Carters and the Travis Hunters, they're going to go off the board early. And you figure the tight ends there, whether their name is Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, the kid from Michigan. And you also have defensive backs that could be coming out here early, and other edge rushers, things of that nature. But there isn't a lot of no matter how much buzz they try to generate the NFL, I don't feel it. And you know me, I take the temperature of all of what's going on and try to get my fingerprints just to share with you guys and gals what I think. But I'm sure you can attest to this if you follow sports. This draft has very little buzz, very little hype. And yeah, I get it. The whole Shedeur Sanders angle and where he's going to go, and is he going to fall like a block of concrete in the ocean? It's quite possible. That can happen. So other than that, and tomorrow night is the first round, and then you'll have rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and we'll know 4 through 7 on Sunday or Saturday. But my thing is that for those who are the ultimate geeks and draft nicks, that they come up with the mock drafts, and I'm not going to have a mock draft for you. Excuse me, I said draft Mac. Mock draft, let's enunciate Jay Reels. I'm not going to have one for you. To me, it's a waste of time. You can just pretty much throw it in the trash. It's like trying to predict the NCAA tournament, all teams. You can't. There's no way, because you can't factor in trades. You can't factor in players that are going to drop because of a report or because of something that has been leaked, to where a player that's supposed to be drafted as high as 3 now is going at 9 or 10. Remember Warren Sapp many moons ago? So that's all I'm going to say about the draft. I'll talk pretty much what I did today, tomorrow, unless anything crazy happens in the next 24 hours where I'm going to have to bring it up on the podcast tomorrow. So you got that going on with the NFL. But then now let's get right to it. Lastly, and it is important, so I'm going to need your comments. Speaking of comments, let's see. All right. Val is 49ers all the way, so he is a Bay Area guy. Giants baseball, Warriors basketball, Niners football, San Jose hockey, because, of course, there's no hockey team in San Francisco. And if I had to take a guess, Val, you have to be a Stanford or Cal fan when it comes to your college teams. Oh, I appreciate that, Val. Thank you. And you're a good fan, very good fan. And, I appreciate you big time. But now let me get right to it as I start to land this plane. Very important. This is why I need your feedback. And again, for those who are watching the replay, don't be shy. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what you're feeling. Let me know what you're thinking, etc. The content that I've been able to put forth, whether it's here on the live stream or on the channel or on my podcast, what would you like to see? What type of content intrigues you the most? What do you find appealing? I will say this. This is what I have cooking, or this is what I have turned on the stove, and I want to share with you. This live stream, which I love, I look forward to doing this because I hope that in the days, weeks, months, and years to come, that there will be a lot more traction and a lot more people hopping on board to share their thoughts or to banter back and forth about what's happening in sports. But there's going to be a time, and it's hard. I'm the little engine that could, people. I'm an independent podcaster, content creator, and doing this for the love. And then whether you do or do not know, I'm doing this full time. So I'm not generating income here on these platforms just yet, although I have a couple of affiliate sponsors, whatever, but it's not as if those sponsors are backing up these live streams and forking over the cash where I can say, yes, the J Reels live stream sponsored by X company. So with that being said, what type of content? And I know with these live streams, I'm hoping to get live guests for you guys and gals that maybe we can interact. That if the guest, whether they be a former, current athlete, a broadcaster, studio host, people in the business, people playing on the field, court, ice, etc., I want to get them on here to share their experiences with me and then obviously with you guys and gals as another way to get people to watch. Just like with the channel, whether it's me putting up content about vlogs with fan bases and their expectations, or even doing a lifestyle, more of a personal vlog about where I am in life. Remember, people, I'm 56. I'm not a 20-year-old and I'm in the basement somewhere and like the Kai Sanats and all the other streamers out there that, of course, have been doing this for years. No, I've been doing this now. This is my 3rd month. So I get it. This is not going to happen overnight. This is going to take time. This is going to hopefully get some wind in the sails to where it's going to take off. And obviously, whether it's through word of mouth or through you guys and gals posting it on social media and sharing it with those who you love, that, hey, you should check out this live stream that I hop on board every Wednesday if you're Val out in the Bay Area. This is what's going to take in order for me to get to that next level. And believe you me, mark it down, 12:56 p.m. Eastern Time on April 23rd, 2025. I will not forget you guys. So, right, if it gets to a point where I'm in a live stream and I got 100 people in there, and if I see Val B, or if I see Jonathan, or if I see James Douglas, or if I see other people that hop on board, whether it's the novice, I know I'm missing a couple. Forgive me for those I'm missing. James Douglas, Val, Nancy. I know I'm missing a key critical component to this live stream. You guys, you got my back. You've had my back, so I'm going to get yours. So, I'm going to shout you out in those rooms where there are more than a handful of people, dozen people, etc. So please keep that in mind as we move it along. But right, what type of content would you like? Would you like a guest here on the live stream? Do you want me to add a particular element? Once upon a time on my podcast, I did a loser, or not loser, I take that back. A winner and loser of the week. And, or did I? It's been so long since I even done that. Yeah, I did a winner and loser. I thought I gave it another name, like stud and dud. No, I did not do that. But yeah, do you want me to throw that type of element in there? And not only that, do you listen to the podcast? Do you watch it on Spotify or watch it on YouTube? Or do you put me in your earbuds or headphones where you take me on errands or to the gym or stuff around the apartment? Or do you listen to it through your laptop on your speaker, whatever? What would you like to see on the podcast? I understand more guests, and trust me, I'm trying to do my best to get more guests on the podcast. But because I'm the little engine that could, the J Reels podcast, yes, I may be around for 7+ years, but I'm not a household name. I'm looking to become that with the live streams, with the podcast, with the channel. And also, what would you like to see on the channel? Do you want to see more interaction with fans like you've seen with the Met vlog, with the Met vlog and Nick vlog? Do you want to see more lifestyle content, more day in the life, week in the life of what it is that I do? And I get it. That may be more of a thing like J Reels. I don't care what you do, whatever. Just keep pumping out the podcast, the live streams, etc. And that's fine. But by doing those days in the lives and weeks in the lives and things of that nature, you get to know a little bit more about me. And I think it's important because I want to share what it is that I'm doing and to be accountable and transparent and to show the world that, yes, I can talk sports, but I can also talk about other things that's going on. Not to say that I have the world of experience, whether you want to talk about movies or music, or I won't even touch politics, people. Obviously, that is a lightning rod. But let's say if something brought it up and I feel that I want to answer it or it's reasonable, I'll do that. Because again, yes, I understand this is our toy department. This is where we get in the sandbox and we get the shovels and the pails and we kick it and go back and forth. But yes, to have a little bit more of a personal touch about your friendly little live stream host or podcast host or channel host, whatever, I feel that, and I want to do that. I want to be able to show you guys and gals that, yes, there is the personal side, that I'm just not a robot here talking about sports. Hey, let's go Mets, and let's see what the Celtics do tonight against the Orlando, and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't even bring that up for that matter, but I feel that's going to be a quick series. So, yeah, I want to know, what more do you want to see? What more do you want to see from me, whether it's on this platform, the live stream, or the podcast, or the channel, or dare I even say, I'm going to get to the next topic. You ready for this? I know you come on here, and I'm not going to change it anyway, but I know there are people out there that are on a particular platform, and they're making money. Granted, it's going to have to build up to get to that point, but what are your thoughts about that platform? People have gone in my ear to say, hey, have you ever thought about that? You'll get a lot more followers. You'll get a lot more of this. And to me, yes, do I want to get more followers? I guess we all do, especially with what it is that I'm doing as I'm trying to blaze a path and a trail in this space to generate income. And listen, I'm not trying to be, a zillionaire. Yes, I understand money. We need to live and survive and fruits for our labor, all that. But because I'm doing this out of the love and because I'm not having that stream of income that is consistent or that should be in order for me to continue to thrive and stay alive. And I feel in my heart of hearts that day will come. The universe, I know they're working its magic somewhere. But yeah, I am curious to know what it is that you want to watch, want to hear, whether it's certain topics, whether it's certain guests, certain types of guests, whatever it is. I'm open to it and always have been. I just never put it out there. And with Twitch, I know that could be a possible stream. Now, it'll be set at a different time. This live stream was going to stay here. That's going to be more of maybe even a nighttime thing. Because remember, I talked about doing, as I've been doing this test run for now, since the early part of February, that I'm going to keep it here until further notice. But I may just keep this here and then have Twitch maybe at nighttime. Yeah, to talk about sports, to talk about what's going on, pretty much similar to this, among other things. And I feel that as inundated as we are with all these platforms, I know it could be just mind-blowing, mind-boggling for that matter. But at the same time, I do have to think about what's going to work and how I could attract more people to obviously make myself gainfully employed to do what it is that I love. And that's all there is to it. So let me see what you guys have said here to this point. Yes, as a matter of fact, in 8 minutes, which I'll probably sign off around then, just so we could unlock what's happening in baseball here as we get ready for that sweep. And there's a ton of afternoon baseball, which I love, midweek, always good. Phillies fans versus Mets fans, boxing match on your channel. Jonathan, I don't know. Let me see. Do I know any Philly fans? I know people in that region, and maybe I could pluck a Philly fan or two. What do we have? A celebrity or maybe an uncelebrity death match where we get in the ring where we fight against the Phillies fans? Yeah, I mean, maybe not to that degree, but yeah, it'd be nice to get more influx of fans, and I'm trying to do that behind the scenes. And I know I even need to do a better job of doing that because to get myself out there, especially in this city, it's easy. Get to Manhattan. I know you got flyers, things of that nature. But I want to do more appearances, show up at sports bars, things of that nature, just like I did with the Met opening day and the opening day of the postseason. Like go down to the Garden to tell people, hey, this is where I'm going to be at. And I think I shared that on last week's live stream. So to kind of put that on the radar so people, hey, if they want to do a meet and greet, they want to get on camera, whatever, this is the whole point of doing this. So that's what you have with that. Let me see. Val, I don't usually watch college sports that much. All right, so Cal is your team, but again, you're not fully invested. Totally understood. And then I like shorts that you do maybe Bay Area sports. Well, I'll only do Bay Area if it's warranted because my thing is that because I live in New York and we obviously with all the New York teams, I don't want to make it New York centric. I don't want to make it just about what is happening here. And I get it that I can branch out and talk about other things, whatever. And I touched on the Warriors a little bit there earlier. Even on the podcast, Val, I don't know, do you listen to my podcast every Monday and Thursday on Apple, Spotify, of course, the J-Reels or at J-Reels on YouTube? I'm curious. And this is why I bring this up because I want to know what it is that you're watching, what it is that you consume, the type of artists or type of other contemporaries that do this type of work. And I've been doing a little recon on that where I've watched other people's work, more so on YouTube when it comes to commentary. And I think to myself, it's like, oh, wait. And I just had a commentary video on Luka, what was it, a couple of days ago. So I want to do more of that. And I plan to do more of that. But the big thing is that continuing to put out quality and substantial, just good overall topics to sink our teeth into and not just the lazy narratives and the boring comparisons. And LeBron could have a monster game 3 there. And then the next thing you know, people are saying, oh, LeBron took his play back to the days in Cleveland or even Miami for that matter, which team or which LeBron team was the best of all time? The team that won the championship in 2020 in the bubble as a member of the Lakers, the 2016 team. So you know what I mean? All those comparison debate. I'm not doing that. I'm not. This is a quality sports hour plus. This is about fans. As I like to say, I make this for the fans. Excuse me. I take that back. Reel it in. No pun intended with J Reels. This content, anything and everything that I produce, is made by a fan for the fans, which may be my new slogan, because but prior to that was your source for all the sauce in the world of sports, which I like, but I think the made by a fan for the fan, I mean, what more does that tell you? And I just only hope that I've done a good job to this point and will continue to do a good job as the calendar days just get clicked off, and then as we get into next month, etc. But I'm curious. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling. I want to, Jay Reels, come on, you got to bring in more guests. Or, here's a request. Why didn't you try to get this guy or this woman or that athlete or whomever it may be? And listen, I know it's a DM, an email away, depending on how open those individuals are. But remember, I am the one-man operation, the little engine that's doing everything. Not only am I producing podcasts, I'm producing these live streams. I'm also hosting these on all the platforms. I'm an editor, not only just the audio, but the video. I have a website that I haven't managed as much recently, which is a good thing. But it's still there. If I need to make tweaks, if I need to make changes, that's something that is my responsibility only. So, Now, this is smoke that I wanted because I had the freedom to produce videos and put out content for those diehards like yourselves that are out there that come in each and every week. And I truly appreciate you for that. But this is what it's all about. It's all about interacting. It's all about trying to take the pulse of the fan to see where they are as far as what they watch, what they like, what they don't like, etc. And what better way to do it than here? Granted, there's only been a handful of people in the room, but again, for those who are going to watch live, that's why I have this up. So if you do have something to share or do have a comment, whatever it is, please do so. And one more time, I'll be more than happy to follow up at that moment. But in the meantime, that'll do it, my good people. Another live stream just about in the books. As always, thank you so much for carving precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the wonderful world of sports. I don't know if there's anything else that people need to say. I'm sure Jonathan, even yours truly, wants to get to the TV as the Met game will start in 2 minutes. But in closing, I have to say, any last thoughts from the chat room, please feel free to put them in the comment section now, and I'll post them there on the screen in just a matter of moments. As always, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, rate the review on all available platforms, Apple, Spotify, the YouTube channel at J Reels, as well as the website at J Reels. And again, I'll be more than happy to follow up with anyone who wants to reach out or send an idea, suggestion, even a critique, praise, whatever it may be. And if you want to hit me up on any of my socials, you can do so. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the J Reels Podcast, or even J Reels on Instagram. Twitter, J Reels1, just the number. The J Reels Podcast at gmail.com. That, of course, if you want to expound or really share what links, things of that nature, feel free to do so. Because whether you do or do not know people, this is what I love to do. Being able to have the freedom to spend my time and for you to share it with me, to talk about anything and everything that's happening in sports, to get in the weeds on the hottest topics, the winning streaks, the teams that have fallen apart. I love it. I'm sure you guys and gals love it. And as I say all the time, it's in the blood, it's in the DNA. Talking sports, it's birth to nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens on the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are, the J Reels Podcast, or in this case, the J Reels live stream, always comes live, direct, correct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx, the South Beach, the South Central, the South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Until tomorrow, again, reminder, latest podcast coming your way, Apple, Spotify, jreels.com, on YouTube at jreels. But until next Wednesday, where we'll see each other on the next live stream, on the flip, baby.